Well, I guess here it is. Alright, so you want to learn how to play Lulu Jungle, how to get flamed, reported by your teammates, and how to waste precious time of your life learning something that is only semi-decent after dozens of hours of playtime. Look no further, because I, Lulu God, Armin, arrogant, condescending prick, will teach you in this video everything you need to know about her. This will be a full guide with all the information needed to play her. Doesn't mean you'll get it done right anytime soon, doesn't mean it will be good at some point, but if you're a lunatic like me, who plays Lulu Jungle just to make other people depressed, like most Lulu mains, let's be real here, then this guide should fulfill your dream after a lot of practice. Because in the end, for anyone who has never seen what Lulu Jungle does to others, here's a short summary. Yeah, and that's basically what I live for. That beautiful, beautiful moment of someone getting the big sad. So anyway, let's get to the guide. There will be some memes here and there, but the information will be legit. Timestamps in the description. I guess we should start off the guide with the most important question, which is why? Why would you play Lulu Jungle? Well, that's a good question, and I honestly have no idea. I fell in love with this playstyle because I loved Lulu, but I hated bot lane, and being dependent on anyone but yourself. And before I knew it, or even could think about it, I had 1,000,000 points on her, so it certainly worked out for me, and so I believe it can work out for anyone else. For the question why player, let's just say that nothing makes me happier than putting bad junglers in their place. Polymorph is just by far the most depressing ability, as you still have control over your character, but all you can do is run or stay still until you die. So, does it work? Yes and no. I'm a believer that she does have her place, and that even in the high stages, she could be built and played around. Unfortunately though, there is no definitive proof of my statement, and the best thing we have seen so far is just plain center abuse in the LCK by my dear friend AF Spirit. Regarding solo queue, she surely does work, but I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, as Lulu is infamously known as a very popular LCS pick over the last years. That also goes with the fact that she's heavily dependent on good coordination for a good performance. Or you just lone wolf 1v9 the game like me. I like to say if you get past 6, it works well. And even the part before 6 is not really that problematic. The reason it works is Polymorph, a god level dueling ability if you or the enemy commit. Thanks to Poly and insane amounts of utility and control in Lulu's kit, she becomes a god tier duelist, if played right. This assumes you build on hit, not AP. AP Lulu Jungle is something I don't approve of. Any jungler that gets on you will just simply kill you, but on hit solves that problem, because any jungler that gets on you is literally jumping to their death 99% of the time. The next question should be, when should you pick it, and when shouldn't you? I've written a long text about this matter that I will link in the description as well, but TLDR, if the enemy team has any amount of assassins, bruisers, tanks, and anything else that doesn't have much range, while not having super long range champs like Lux, Kate, and Xerath, or fucking Olaf, then she mostly is a good pick. If you have a tank on your team. A tank with engage. There are also a few matchups like Ezreal Jungle that I would rather shove my hand into a blender than playing against that again, but I will get to those later. For your summoner spells, you want to run Flash and Smite. For your runes, you have quite a bit of variety, especially now that the keystones are not forcing stats on you. Anyway, you mostly want to run Lethal Tempo or PTA. Lethal Tempo for a more solo carry oriented playstyle, and PTA if you aren't that confident so at least your teammates can do more damage. Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace because there aren't any better options for damage. For your secondary page, you mostly want to go Inspiration for approach velocity and the boots. You want to run Inspiration because the movement speed that Lulu gets from the rune choices is very beneficial for Lulu, as she absolutely loves movement speed. There are a few matchups where I mention Glacial Augment soon, which is really devastating in Sett matchups. Run it and abuse it in those matchups, but not anywhere else. You only want to run this to counter a select few champions. The rune itself is just a worse version of Phase Rush. And lastly, for your stat runes, I would always recommend you to run 9% attack speed and defensive options to counter your jungle matchup. Lulu doesn't benefit much of AD or AP, and as there is no other choice, running armor, MR, and health is mostly the best option. The build is fairly linear, so there is not much thinking or variety involved. Your core build is Blood Razor, Blade of Rune King, and Wit's End, with either Ninja Tabi or Merc Treads whenever you need them. Your 5th and 6th item will mostly be a Ginsus followed up by a Phantom Dancer. Depending on what the situation needs, you can also switch out your Phantom Dancer for items like Runan, Spear Shojin, Frozen Mallet, or even Guardian Angel. Against heavy AD comps, you can also just opt into defense items like Randon's Omen or Thornmail. Against AP, on the other side, you can also get a Spirit Visage or even a Maw from Mordius. Regarding the build order, you always want to finish your Blood Razor first, and then you take Wit's End or Blade of Rune King, depending on if you need to do damage against tanks, or protection against AP champs. Against squishy targets, the difference in damage isn't big, so don't bother thinking about what does more damage. After you build one, you build the other. You can buy your boots whenever you feel like and you need them. I mostly delay my boots for quite long though. For skill max order, I go E, Q, W into 3 points in Q, and then W max, then Q max, and lastly E max, because it's a garbage ability. There are certain rules you should follow when playing Lulu Jungle. They're kind of exceptional to this playstyle and in particular this champion. You do not pick Lulu if you don't have a tank. That is the absolute most important rule of all. Lulu is garbage without a tank. First, you are the carry. You're the most important player until someone else is more fed than you, that can carry harder. Second, absolutely save all abilities for yourself if there is any sort of threat around. This especially goes for your polymorph, as it's your core skill and you will die without it. And your shield, which makes you lose a big amount of DPS if you used ally cast. Hence, why you should never use it ally cast. 3. Never ally cast your shield. Never. The only exception, if you absolutely cannot and will not do any more damage, then you can use it. But in any other case, you will not use E on an ally. 4. Polymorph has higher value than anything else, even Flash. Use it only if you absolutely have to. And lastly, your Lulu Jungle. Your objective isn't winning, it's making the enemy as sad as humanly possible. Before we go into the matchups, I need to clarify some mechanics that Lulu has in her kit. Once again, I have made a post regarding this, but I will make it short. There are 3 mechanics you absolutely need to play Lulu Jungle. First, kiting. Second, dash cancelling. And third, polymorph buffering. I don't think I need to talk much about kiting, but yeah, if you can't kite, you're just a sitting target. So if you cannot kite, Lulu Jungle definitely isn't for you. Dash cancelling is a little bit more interesting. Lulu's ult cancels many dashes in the game, especially in the jungle as there are tons of champions which have dashes. Dash cancelling right into kiting them is an absolutely necessary mechanic to use. And lastly, polymorph buffering. Sometimes when that Riven tries to flash on you for a Riven montage, you might need to use Poly as soon as humanly possible. Buffering it just before she flashes will completely deny her from doing anything more than a flash stun, because buffering poly will disable anything that enters your poly range, even if it's just 1 millisecond before you get stunned after the flash. Poly will go off and will make her depressed. So, after we got all the preparations done, we can finally start with the interesting parts, which is, for example, synergies. Lulu has certain synergies that you want to pick Lulu into if you have those on your team. The first one would be Jarvan top. His ult and your ult, I don't think I need to say more. The next one is Gallia mid. Global help, wonderful for Lulu to be safe and to be able to play more aggressive or to counter jungle. Also tank that she loves in general. Yasuo mid, massive pressure that can help you due to exerting enough pressure mostly to be able to help you in jungle fights. Also your ults have synergies, so there's that. Next one would be Ashe ADC. Her CC and vision skill are just insanely useful for you, and she's definitely the best ADC in your team. A common theme among the supports that work really well with Lulu is that they both engage and peel for Lulu, and thus Rakan support is a really good fit for Lulu as it provides her with both flexibility and versatility. And lastly, Fresh support. I always loved playing Lulu ADC and Fresh support, but even if they're not together in bot lane, they still have crazy synergy, and it's just really, really useful if you have one on your team. Moving on to the matchups. I also made a list of matchups for jungle, and also for every other role, by the way. So I will go through every relevant jungle matchup with a quick summary of how it goes, what you can do, and what you shouldn't do, and when you win against it. So prepare for a rather long list. I have probably made timestamps in the description. If not, just click through it, it's sorted alphabetically. Amumu is quite tanky, but you melt him. His base damage is quite high, so don't get caught by his Q. AP Amumu can basically one-shot you if you don't have Wit's End, so be careful. Tank Amumu is quite annoying as well, but only because he doesn't let you do damage for like 3 seconds if he hits you with his entire kit. But nevertheless, it's an easy matchup. Fight him anytime you want, just avoid his Q by all means. Flash it if necessary. Counter jungling is an option. Camille is very disturbing if she's ahead. Godlike Camille players will just dodge your poly with their ult, so be very patient with it. Poly her after ult. You should be able to duel her if you hit poly. If she is ahead, poly her second Q at all costs. It will destroy you if you don't. Other than that, it's a skill matchup. Don't hesitate to flash her E in an early fight. It will mostly win you the fight and at least force her flash. Cho'Gath. Just melt him. Against Qiyana, you win at pretty much all stages. Do whatever you want to her, she can't really fight your pre-6, and she will lose every fight after your first item and even harder after Wit's End. Bend her over. Dr. Mundo is very fucking tanky, but you're also very heavy artillery that can take him down. Kite him to death. You can even invade him early as his clear is complete garbage. Echo is a more useful Diana. You win after your first item, just use your poly a bit later than usual, so he can't ult away. You can also polymorph buffer his E, so he can't use his Q immediately after for maximum damage reduction, if you're very ahead. Before that stage, avoid his W at all cost, flash if necessary. If you do, you win the fight. Elise just shits on you if she's good. Care for her sitting in your jungle, ward your jungle out, flash her stun at all costs. Don't fight her early, she is strong. If you get to Wit's End, you win. Path around her if possible. Evelyn is pretty much just like Echo, but she has more damage output and you can't flash her CC. Ult and shield preemptively, red smite her, and if you live through the CC, you win. You can also polymorph buffer her E if she misses Q, so both of you just stand there and look at each other, very romantically by the way. Of course that won't work if she's too fed, but if she isn't, you mostly win after one item. After Wit's End, it's incredibly one-sided. This champ just makes you wanna fucking die. Dodge, there's actually no way you can beat him. Also, here's this funny clip of LS getting very happy.
I'm fucking dead. I fucking hate this champion, dude. Ah, so fucking gross. See ya. Oh my fucking god! Oh, his fucking E.
Wait, people play this champ in the jungle? Well, same as Evelyn, just extremely weak early and without ult. Do what you want to him, if you find him without ult, that is. If he ults on you, ult immediately and do anything that you can to keep yourself alive for a little bit longer. If you live through the fear, he's dead. Gragas, just dash cancel him and then you melt him. But if you're against AP Gragas and he hits a flash E on you, just accept your death, if you don't have Wits End. Graves is a 100% skill matchup. You're better at 1v1ing, but he clears much faster. Whoever gets ahead wins mostly, until you had 3 items. Then you mostly auto-win unless he has Maw and Tabai because he's a pussy. Tabai is recommended though. You can fight when you want, but just be aware that he clears faster and has insane burst. Polymorph buffer his E and see what happens. Arent is insanely annoying, but you beat him 1v1. The question should be how you get a hold of him. He's very annoying in teamfights and takes whatever he wants from you. If you manage to stay relevant, this is a skill matchup. Jarvan you just dash cancel and then melt him, also buy a Tabai. Dash cancel Jax and kite him out until his E is over, and then poly and melt him. He's dangerous though, and you don't want to fight him pre-6 mostly. Late game, it's a skill matchup that I absolutely love. You can't fight him without ult, unless you're really ahead. Kayn farms fast as fuck and leaves your jungle empty. Try to outpace him by ganking a lot. He's insanely weak early, so fight him early if you can. After transformation, poly buffer Assassin Kayn and just kite Red Kayn. If Red Kayn gets his knockup on you, you're in trouble. Cancelling his Q dash and thus his Q damage is possible if you have a very fast reaction time. Against Kha'Zix, you just want to buy Tabai and Red Smite. Don't fight him early, he will literally fall over after you have your first damage item in Tabai. If he counter jungles you, path around him at all costs. He's dangerous until you hit 6. You just shit on Kindred, it's equal until the first item, but then you just destroy her. Do what you want, everything is possible, but your kit counters are extremely hard. A good Lee Sin is just cancer, I don't even know how to put it, but assuming he isn't actually Grypex Son smurfing in fucking Gold Dealer or something, just avoid him until 6, care for counter jungling and just ward your jungle. Try to stay relevant, you beat him after 6. I don't know if Maokai counts as a jungler, but he used to be one. And you just kite him and melt him, it's not really difficult. Lol. Well, this champ is weird. Technically seen, you should shit on him, but if he dodges your poly, you're fucked. Be as patient as humanly possible. Hitting poly will decide if you live or die. He's more dangerous than you might think, especially early. Mains are horrifying. Care for the wolf's cheese. I boosted with this champion a lot, so I do understand his full potential. Yeah, just melt him, he has no damage. Nevertheless, he can hold you down for quite a while, so don't get collapsed on while fighting. He doesn't go down easily. Honestly, as inconsistent as Nidalee players are, I won't bother talking about her much. If she's smurfing, you just lose. If not, she's actually the easiest matchup ever. Just dodge a spear before 6, flash if necessary, after 6 you auto-win. Against Nocturne you just want to press E just before poly hits, so he can't spell shield it. Don't fight him before your first item, and bro tip! Take Nimbus Cloak and ult to get out of fear range. I mean, he can't kill you, and you kinda stop his kit from working. Fun fact, if you poly him, he lets go of a snowball. Literal rape. If you don't like getting bent over, just dodge. He doesn't know the word stop. Is that even a jungler? Anyway, dash cancel is useless trash. Fight him after 6 and even before that. He won't really be able to kill you unless you int. I play Poppy jungle, but Lulu just shits on her. Classic tank melting. Well, you won't kill her, but still, fight whenever you want. Red Smite, Wits End, and Bork, while you can kite him easily. Rammus can't do much to you, but he's very tanky. Honestly, I haven't played against this champ in like a year. Either way, you're just a better duelist and you can keep her away from you with ult and poly. Kite Rek'Sai and don't get caught by her knockup. Her damage is not to be underestimated. Dash cancel this fuck unless he realizes that Knight's Edge is an item. If he does, then you need godlike reaction time to E-click his shield and then ult in under 0.3 seconds. Kite and hope he will use his Roar Cleanse, then use Poly when his empowered ability is down. Mostly this is an easy matchup, but there are some really talented Wrangler players out there that even I am afraid of. His counter jungling is also not to be underestimated. You can sit in a bush and if you dare to walk in there, you're 100% dead pre-6. Tabai is a must buy. Just hope he isn't better than you or that you have a lane that has pressure. Sejuani is kinda like Rammus, just that she can hold you down from afar with her ult. Don't get caught in collapse stun, other than that, classic tank matchup that you win. Lol. While normal Shyvana is a rare easy matchup for Lulu, AP Shyvana makes all of that extremely difficult. Try to shut her down early through counter jungling. If she gets to her items, she will just spam ease on you until you die. Skarner is an easy glacial augment matchup that you can simply kite. Try to not fight him around the spires and be aware of his flash ults. You might want to get a QSS if that is happening to you more often. Throw another rock. That hits me hard in the fucking head and I fucking die. Please, I don't want to play this cancer matchup anymore. His champ is literally kiting me. Off yourself, Riot. If he gets on top of you, you die. This matchup tests how good you are at kiting. Don't bother fighting him early, unless you can do it safely or you have backup. Trundle is quite dangerous early. Lol, just roll over him. You're way stronger than him after you get your first item. Just like Trundle, Lulu has the tools to beat him. It requires the player though to be good. You're stronger than Y. Dash cancel Q and Tabai. You can fight her when you want, but be careful to not get hit by her Q. She does a lot of damage. Then again, she can't really stick to you early and later you win anyway. In early fights, flash her Q if necessary. Like Rammus, just less tanky and less useful. Glacial Augment. Fight him whenever you want if you're confident in your kiting skills. And bro tip. If you time your poly right, you can disable him after he ulted, just in the right moment after his ult CC invulnerability runs out, so he basically loses his ult value. Very easy matchup if you're confident. Utter Cancer. If he runs face rush, path around him at all costs and don't let him anywhere near you. He can do whatever he wants to if he just gets on you. You need 3 items to beat him 1v1. It's a very bad matchup. Dash cancels and kite. Now that we're done with the matchups, we can move on to how to clear and path as Lulu and how to generally jungle with her. Honestly, the clear paths are so flexible and versatile in today's jungle, there is almost no point in trying to give you a fixed route, just a couple of guidelines. First, kite the cams. Always kite the cams. If you don't kite the cams, don't play Lulu Jungle. Your clear paths are absolutely dependent on matchup and lane matchups. Adapt. Be always very careful if there is a risk to get invaded at your red. Crocs and Raptors are your least favorite camps, especially avoid Raptors until Hunter's Talisman. Red buff Lulu is rather strong. There are a lot of scuttle fights you win with red buff. Level 2 red buff ganks, like Twitch or Camille, are a possibility and sometimes even advised. Do not contest scuttle without pressure. Always contest it with pressure. Also spam ping so laners know. Outsmart your opponent. That is the essence of Lulu Jungle. Don't counter jungle until you have proper understanding of jungle, Lulu, and your specific matchup. If you really want to autopilot, go buff, wolves or grump, and buff. Scuttle or gank, depending on how much HP left and lane states, gank again, or clear your jungle. Regarding late game, we have to differentiate between teamfighting and split pushing. Your position in teamfights is somewhere between backline and midline, where mages mostly are. Your job is to disable the enemy frontline and assassins, and provide tons of damage as you're a tank shredder and a god tier duelist. You can also reinforce your frontline if there is no one to jump on you or the fight is considered a win anyway. If there is someone stronger than you, like a late game hyper carry Vayne or something, you can also peel for them and provide supportive damage and protection. For split pushing, yeah, that's an option too, because you're insanely strong at 1v1s, but I don't recommend it, because Lulu just works a lot better with a tank than completely alone. Always assume you win except against the following matchups. Any long-range mage unless you have flash up, flash the CC ability and they don't have flash. Ezreal and Caitlyn unless they engage on you, which is basically suicide. Dr. Mundo full build might be difficult to deal with, unless you're a kiting god. Fiora unless you outplay her because of her riposte. Master Yi if he's a god. Nasus if you don't have QSS. Olaf until you're at 4 items. Rengar only if he has Knight's Edge. Yasuo if he's remotely good. Alright, so now that we are done with all the important points, I would like to talk about some stuff that is also important to mention, but it didn't really fit anywhere else, so I just call this section other stuff, I guess. Alright, so let's begin with it. Ally cost Whimsy should generally be avoided unless you're much stronger than the enemy, or there is absolutely no threat left. You can ally cost EQ Snipe during a gank if there is absolutely no way for you to come into range to damage the enemy. That also assumes that Flash and Ult are down, and the enemy can die without a majority of your damage. Try to use your E on enemies as often as possible. Especially against stealth champs, this is insanely useful. There are a lot of other reasons why this is beneficial for you, but let's just keep it at that. Top lane is your best friend. Bot lane only if there is an engaged tank. Mid lane only when a synergy is given or engage is there. Engage is your best friend in general. Defense items aside of your core and boots should generally be avoided unless the enemy doesn't allow you to play without them. Items like Guardian Angel, Zhonya's, and any heavy defense item like Spirit Visage, Thornmail, or Randuin's are niche items that only should be built if the enemy team has one-sided damage or you cannot survive without them. Don't buy those before your second item. Red Smite should be used as soon as possible if you aren't 100% sure that you will win without it. It is also an incredibly strong tool for Lulu to survive the enemy onslaught. Do not hesitate to use your flash, yes, even when you're full health. Sometimes flashing as early as possible when it's necessary is the best option. Don't use your smite on camps if you can. Smite has a lot of value once you upgraded it to red smite. Only smite camps if you're very about to die or you're certain you won't fight until it's off cooldown. Bind your Mastery Taunt and Depengu on literally every button you want for maximum psychological warfare. I prefer to hit a fat one when I press W or R. If you ever gank Yasuo on your team and ult him, don't expect anything. Most Yasuo players have the reaction time of a chair leg, but if you ever find that Yasuo that ults off of your ults, marry him. Flash ult gives you extra style points. Very important, by the way. If your teammates are cool, they will reward your second buff. If it's ranked, tell them to do so. If certain champs dodge your poly, then just stand still and type well played in all chat while they kill you. I have mad respect for people who can dodge poly on purpose. Alright, so that was my guide for Lulu Jungle. I very much appreciate your attention until this point of the video, and hope that you'll find success with the ways of Lulu Jungle in the future. Until then, good luck. Lulu God, signing out.
Oh, she's going A, the Kai'Sa. Wait, you saw? Whoa, how did he even do that?
No! You're trash! Kha'Zix, you're gay! Oh wait, he has exhaust. That's... okay, I'm fucking trash.